Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ, and today we are doing this video of before versus after in Apex triggers. So you might have heard that there are events in Apex trigger, that is before insert, before update, after insert, after update, similarly for delete and undelete actions as well. So you might always get confused or wonder while working with Apex triggers that why we are using before or when we are using the before events and when we are using the after event. It is clear, almost it is very clear that when we want to use which operation, that is the insert, update, delete or undelete, but it is vaguely we don't have vaguely we don't have much confidence related to events, that is when we want to use the before event and when we want to use the after event. So I have come up with this all in one document together so that we can get our concepts clear, and keep in mind I'm also learning along with you, and this is very important for working with Apex triggers. Or if you are having an interview, they will ask you question about Apex triggers. Even for events, they might ask you to write a basic trigger as well. We have already covered some of the videos related to the Apex triggers, that some of the real time based or the interview based questions as well. But today we are going to cover the basic concept of when or how to use before and after events. So let's get started. So first of all, before triggers, we'll be talking about before triggers. So before, just the word before, if you think of it, what do you understand by it? That when a particular event is occurring, so just right before that we want to trigger our apex trigger. We want to take that action just right before that. So what is that particular event just right before that when we want to take this action? So that event is when our record is getting saved to the database. So whenever our record is getting saved to the database, just right before that we want to perform this before trigger or before event. So this is come into play when we want to, what are some scenarios when we want to use this? That is when we want to update or validate record values. Suppose you are saving a record and there are some validation required, that if this field is required or not. Like we have a account record and we want to check if the phone field has been populated or not, so we can use before trigger for that. And because right before saving the record we can check for that. And similarly, even for the field formats or field values, like particular value is being same to the particular field, we can check for that as well. So essentially they will allow you to make modifications to the record that triggered the event. Suppose if I am making changes to the account record and I want to make change or I want to check the validation on account record itself, then I want to use or I should use before trigger. And even if I want to throw some error on the account, I want to check if account is having any contact attached to it, then I don't want to user to delete that particular account. So for that I want to throw the error to the user that you cannot delete this account, so I can use before trigger for that as well. So when should you opt for before trigger? There's an instance for it, like when your goal is to modify the record which triggers the event, for instance to enforce data consistency or perform data transformation before saving of the record to the database, then you should opt for before triggers. Let's go to the after triggers. So as we said for before triggers, that there is an event just right before that we want to take action using our apex trigger. So for after triggers as well, our event is after the record is being saved to the database, and then if we are making any changes, then we want to opt for after triggers. So the key importance in before and after trigger is that in after trigger we'll be having a id of the record on which the event will be happening. Suppose on account, if I'm talking about an account, I am taking an action on an account. So in case of before trigger, I will not be having an id of that particular account because that has not been saved to the database yet. But if I want to take action in case of after trigger, that record has been already saved, I might be taking action on its update or on its related records, like accounts contact. I'm checking something is happening on the contact, and then I want to take action on its parent account, then I can use after triggers. So after triggers are designed for scenarios where you need to work with field values that are set by the systems, such as record ID or last modified date. So these system fields will only be available with you when you have already records saved to the database. Otherwise, you won't be having any of these field available. Also, records that trigger and after trigger will be read only, so you can't make any changes on that. You can change on the related record, but you can't make changes on the uh, record itself, which is triggering the record, sorry, trigger. So when should you opt for before trigger, sorry, after trigger? This is I'll change it. So when our goal is to create, update or delete other records. Other record means the related record. I'm taking an action on account. But I want to create its related record. So I'm taking an action on account, but I want to create related its contact, its related. I want to update some field on the related contact, or I want to delete the related contact record. Then we shall choose after event. Or either, if after triggers are typically used when we need to make changes beyond the current record, that is again meant for related record only. So let's move on. So if we have an example, we'll identify and justify why we are using which trigger event. So imagine we have to automate the process of creating a related account record whenever a new opportunity is being created in Salesforce within a specific time frame. So we have a scenario that whenever a opportunity is being created, but we need to check one field on that opportunity that it is being created in that specific time frame only, then we want to create its related account record. Otherwise, we don't. So according to you, what event you should use? You can pause the video here and you can work on it, or maybe think over it that what event you need to use. And but we'll resume. So let's see. So we shall opt for before trigger in this case, because we need to validate the opportunity before it is being saved to the database. That opportunity, if this opportunity is being created within a specific time frame, so that specific time frame we can choose for any other field as well, but for our current scenario we are choosing that close date field on the opportunity. So we are checking if our current opportunity is being created in this specific time frame. So while creating opportunity, if the close date field on the opportunity is not having date in the, suppose we are having a time frame of 1 year for from today's date, but it is beyond that 1 year, then we shall not allow the user to create this opportunity itself. So it will throw an error, and then that we can do it using before trigger. But if it is correct that it is being created in the correct time frame, then we should allow the user to create the opportunity and then along it the related account as well. So I hope you are clear with it. Because of the validation, we are using before trigger in this case. Let's move on. And operation, obviously operation will be insert operation, that is before insert it should work on it, because opportunity is being created and we need to do this trigger on the opportunity object. Now we'll move on to the next scenario. So imagine we just have to automate the process of update a related account record whenever a new opportunity is being created. So there is no validation that it is being created within a specific time frame or anything. We just need to check that whenever opportunity is being created, we just want to create its related account record. So in this case, we shall opt for after trigger, because it will allow us to perform these updates seamlessly. And we can use after insert operation, that is after insert, whenever the opportunity is being inserted, it will give you the opportunity id, and we can use it to create the related account record as well. So yeah, I hope you are clear on this. And then let's move on. Now there are some comparison based on the before trigger and after trigger. So as for timing, before trigger always execute before the record is being saved to the database. So we don't have the ID of the record in this case. Second is it executes after the record is already available in the database or after the record has been saved to the database. Then we have access to record. So in before trigger we can access the record, we can modify the record fields as well. But in case of after trigger we have access to the record id field and we can work on it. Then in case of validation, before trigger is generally used for the record validation as we talked about in our previous scenario as well, such as for the validation we use that if the opportunity is being created in the correct time frame or not. So these kind of validation we can use for before trigger. And after trigger is suitable for post processing task, that after the opportunity is being already being created, then we can use it to create the new related account related records. For before trigger we have limited access to the related records, but for after trigger we, if we have any complex operation to perform on the related records, then we should opt for after trigger, such as we want to update the related records fields, or we want to check something on the related record, then we should opt for after trigger. Asynchronous. So before trigger works in the synchronous execution only, but after trigger can perform asynchronous actions also. That is, before trigger will only work in a single thread, but after trigger can work with the multi-thread operation as well. So for summary, we talk about before and after trigger. We have the decision, if we have to make the decision between before and after trigger, it will always depend on your specific business requirement. Those points which we have just mentioned, it will just allow you to point out or maybe brief opinion or decision making process, but it may not land you on the particular decision. So you will have to go through your specific business requirement properly. So and also the nature of operation we need to perform, that is insert, update, delete, or some or these operations. So while before triggers excel at validation and data preparation, after triggers shine in scenarios requiring post processing or interactions with the related records, or even with system generated field values. So we have last, you might have heard about, there are context variable, that is trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.new map, and trigger.old map. So it gets very confusing for people when they work with the triggers, that which context variable is available for which operation and which event. So here's a brief out table for you. That is before insert is only available for the trigger.new, and if we talk about trigger.new, that is this context variable, what it holds, it holds the new version of the list of standard object. What exactly does it mean? So suppose if we are performing an operation on the account, our trigger is on the account, and in before insert operation if we are using trigger.new, then it means that it will hold the value of record, that is account. Suppose we have filled out account record with its name, phone, email, so it will hold all these values of that particular account record. And you might ask, if we are working for 4 or 5 records at a time, then yes, it will hold all those records values, all those 4 or 5 records values, because it holds the list of new version of records, not only new version of record. So there's that. Then we have before update. Before update works for trigger.new, trigger.old, and trigger.new map, and trigger.old map as well. So similar to trigger.new, trigger.old hold the old version of the standard object. That is, before we are making any change to the record, the before version, the earlier version, whatever the values it holds, it will hold the value of those records. So suppose if we have a record and I'm making it one field's value change from 1 to 2. So in trigger.old it will be holding value as 1, but in trigger.new it will be holding value as 2. So that's what it means. In trigger.new map, as it suggests map, it is holding a map of new version of standard object list. So what is map? Map is of id and list id and record. So again, example of account. If we are making change on the account record, so again, as it is holding ID, it is already saved to the database. So we are making an update operation. While making a update operation, we are changing its value 1 to 2. So what it will does in this map, it will hold first ID of that account record, and then it will hold the whole account record with all its field values. And again, similar to this trigger.old map, hold the previous version of it with same manner, that is ID and the old value of that account record, that is with one value, but with all the fields. I'm just talking about one field, but it will hold all the field values. So then if we talk about before delete, so if you can understand, delete operation will delete the record. So after deleting the record, it doesn't have any value. So in trigger.new and trigger.new map, it won't be having anything. So it only exists for trigger.old and trigger.old map. Then for undelete, similarly for undelete, it just have after undeleting, we will be restoring the record. The record will be getting resaved, so it has only the trigger.new, but again it has not been saved to the database yet, so we don't have its id, so it doesn't go for trigger.new map. And before performing the undelete operation, this does not exist in the database yet, so we don't have it for trigger.old and trigger.old map. Then if we talk about after insert, so insert operation, it is for trigger.new and trigger.new map. And why it is not for trigger.old and old map? Because it is not update operation, it is insert operation. So in insert operation, we can't have the id, we can't have the old value. And as it is for after, so we will be having related record. After update, in case of update operation, we have old records as well as the new records, so it goes for all the context variable. Then again, after delete will only work for trigger.old and trigger.old map, and after delete will work for trigger.new and trigger.new map as well, because in after operation we'll be having the id. So I hope you understand it, and if you do, please like it and subscribe the channel. And if you have any question, please let me know in the comment section that what doubts you might be having for before and after trigger scenarios. And you can put in the comment section some of the scenarios you might be coming across and you might be having some doubts. And I hope you like it. Thank you. Stay tuned.